Hi, today's video is going to be all around the ICAEW case study exam. That is the final exam, and please bear with me in this video. I am actually quite ill. I have my ibuprofens here ready to go. Honestly, I should probably rest, but I did want to get this video out for you this week. So in terms of the case study itself, it's the final exam, and my first impressions honestly were that it was just really weird. It's not like any of the other ACA exams where it's more learning the knowledge, applying and then answering the questions. It's honestly just a lot more unexpected. It's really weird. I feel like with the other exams I'd maybe asked people about them and just knew what to expect a bit more, but with the case study I hadn't really asked, I hadn't been told anything, and I just honestly had no idea. And that is exactly why I wanted to put this video together and help you if you are in that same position as well. I will be giving you all the tips you need to pass, and if you do want to know how much preparation is needed for the case study, that will be a different video, so make sure you do subscribe. But there is a blog link in the description below which already has all that information there for you. I will as well probably during this video make reference to my help sheet, so that's something you can get if you sign up to my journey via my website, so www.jagsjourney.blog/contact. These help sheets will automatically be in your inbox in a few days after joining. So these help sheets will just kind of help you with your structure and timing and things like that, so it's definitely worth getting and checking out, and it is of course for free. So let's just get straight into an introduction to the case study. To reiterate, there is no new content that you need to learn to pass this exam. Passing this exam honestly is more skills based than anything. So according to ICAEW, students need to demonstrate they can provide advice on complex business issues in the form of a written report. So in order to do this, you do need to analyse both financial and non-financial data, as well as portray ethical awareness. Of course, there is always some ethics, then go and form conclusions and recommendations. But in terms of the difficulty then, honestly, the calculations in the exam, they are pretty basic. It'll be things like calculating the percentage change and things like that, and there really is minimal technical knowledge required. You will even actually already know about 40% of the exam that's going to come up. And then that remaining 60% is actually somewhat predictable as well, based on that advanced information, so the case study information provided to you before the exam. So when I was hearing all of this for the first time, I thought this is literally amazing. Like, I really did think it was probably too good to be true. And yeah, I think if you keep listening, you will kind of realise how the difficulty then comes into this exam. So if you were paying attention, you would have heard that I did just say that you will get some advanced information, so case study information provided to you prior to the exam. So that usually is about a month before the exam that will be released, and it's literally about 40 to 50 pages of information, which is quite a lot, and there is quite a lot to digest, but definitely do just get your highlighter out and just start going through it straight away. What this advanced information is essentially everything you need to know about this client in the past financial year. So mine was November 2020, and it was all about Beale, so it was to do with the magazine industry. And to be honest, you really don't need to worry at all about trying to do extra research outside the advanced information about that industry. There's already more than enough that you need and can draw out of that advanced information that you're given, and you're also even given prior year financial statements that can help, and news articles within this as well. So just think as well, my exam was during COVID-19, and there really weren't any kind of extra marks available for just talking about wider COVID issues. So it does just go to show that you should just really focus on what is in that advanced information. So going forward, I'm going to call advanced information AI just for short. So using this AI, you can really get to know this fictional client of yours. What you should really be trying to do is just understand the client. You should understand the history of the client, the products that they sell, their competitors, their pricing, any opportunities and things like that. So it does help to do like a pestle analysis or a SWOT analysis. There honestly is a lot that you can do with the advanced information, so hopefully if you are with a study provider, then they will kind of help guide you with that. So you might be thinking, okay, I've been given all this information, surely then it's quite easy. Well, there is actually an element of surprise as well. So in the exam, you'll be given 10 to 15 pages of new information. So like I said, everything's up to the previous financial year, but in the exam, you're then given all of the details for the current financial year. So the way that I see it is that the advanced information is all that kind of historical information, and then this case study exam itself is say where you're meeting with the client to just go and find out about the new financial year and what's gone on. So you will be given then the latest set of financial statements. You'll hear of actual then potential strategies and opportunities, and you'll also be given some latest news articles. So like I said, this will be a surprise, but it won't be a complete surprise because the AI does kind of guide you as to what you should maybe expect. Mine was a magazine company. So in the AI, it mentioned maybe different prices of the magazine, perhaps different types of magazines, or even like developing different types of consumer markets and things like that. So then in the actual exam, what did come up was about the pricing. So it was kind of somewhat expected. And what that meant is that I could then prepare for that. But I guess what you're trying to do then is prepare for any type of scenario that could come up. So the case study itself will always have the same format. So I'll put that on the screen here for you. But what you'll essentially see is that there is the executive summary, which is some of the marks, but then the majority is those 3 requirements that are split evenly. And then there is also overall assessment criteria. So that's kind of your language, structure and style. So do keep watching this video. I will talk you through all of those. And what I'll mention here is that because this is a report that you need to put together, your executive summary and requirements do need to be numbered throughout. And that's where my help sheets do really come in handy, because it shows you just how to structure it. So before even reading anything in the exam or even getting into it at all, I'm going to get you some marks now. What you need to do first thing is just start your executive summary. You will need to address the external report to your client from your accountancy firm as per the case study. Following this then, what you need to write is a disclaimer for liability. So what this will do then is it will get you a tick in that overall assessment criteria box. And my help sheet already has this all set out, so it will definitely help. You can maybe kind of guess what the executive summary is from the name. So the purpose is to provide a balanced summary of the whole report. So essentially, if someone didn't have time to read your whole report, which you know that they will do because they're marking you on this, but for example, say if they didn't, from the executive summary, they should be able to draw out all of your key points and really understand what the report is about. The executive summary is typical of any case study exam. It's asked for in all of them. You will need to do it. So that is in that 40% of knowing what will come up in the exam. What I really need to stress here is that you will not get marks if you are just copying and pasting your requirements into that executive summary and making no changes at all. So you can't just copy and paste your conclusion into the executive summary. ICAEW have specifically said that no marks will be awarded for that. And I'll come on to ways that you can fail the exam, but that could potentially lead to a failure. So do be really careful there. So what you need to make sure to actually do is make sure that the executive summary is slightly more detailed than the conclusions itself. So I will give you a tip here, and I think honestly the software's probably changed since I did it. I know I did some software testing. If you're interested, the link is in the description below where I did software testing for the ICAEW exam. But at the time of my exam, it was a lot of flicking back and forth between requirements. And so if I wanted to copy and paste anything from my requirement into the executive summary, I would have to put it into a little sticky note, and then it would stay open on the exhibit, and then I could get it on the actual executive summary page. Hopefully you don't need to worry about that now and it's all kind of sorted. But yeah, you might be thinking, what do you mean you were copying and pasting? You've just said you don't get marks for that. So what I would actually do is copy and paste the requirement rather than the conclusion. I would then remove the less important areas and just really whittle it down, and then add some different wording as well, just to make it really different to that conclusion, but still saying the same thing essentially. But the rewording part is key to make sure that you are going to gain those marks. And what you will find as well with this exam, and I'll come on to, but timing really is key for this exam. If you fail to get everything in your timings, you are likely to fail this exam. That's why I think it is crucial actually that you're doing the executive summary as you go along. You don't want to just leave it to the end and then try and fit it all in, because it could actually lead to your failure. So what is definitely best to do is just write it up after each requirement when it is fresh in your mind. Moving on to requirement 1 then, that is also part of the 40% of where you know what will come up. So there is actually a small part of this requirement that is unknown, but using the advanced information, you can kind of make educated guesses about this one. So the first thing that you will need to do for every single requirement is to create an appendix, and this will be the numbers behind all of your then words in the report. So like I said, they should be fairly basic calculations from the figures in the exhibits that are given to you in the exam. Requirement 1 is all around financial statement analysis, and it really does focus on financial performance. So what you will already have in your advanced information is the prior year financial statements. In the exam itself, you will be given the current year financial statement. So I think hopefully you can see where I'm heading here. What you will need to do is do a year-on-year comparison and just really explain what's changed. So the appendix then for requirement 1 is literally doing that comparison. You'll need to have the prior numbers, the current year numbers, and then you'll need one column for the movement in figures and another for the percentage change. So I think previously, like I've said, the software was honestly a pain for me to do this because you'd have to keep scrolling up and down and it was really difficult. So that's where my help sheets are quite handy as well. For appendix 1, there is a table behind that can help you with that. So yeah, I did think requirement 1 was pretty straightforward. Where it was a bit difficult and less predictable was there is an aspect of it which is a proposed adjustment. So this will be a proposed financial statement adjustment, such as maybe a bad debt write-off, or it could be something to do with cash flow or just anything, to be honest. It is quite random. AI again will kind of give you a hint, but yeah, again, honestly, it's not too difficult and you should be able to get some marks here at least. Moving on to requirement 2 then. This one is about evaluating a potential strategy or opportunity. So like I said in requirement 1, you do need to do an appendix. So in this one, it will be the numbers behind this potential strategy or opportunity. So for me, I did mention already that mine was a magazine company and they actually did do the pricing option as the requirement 2. So they changed the prices and thought about that. So again, this was kind of predictable for me. And what that meant is that I had prepared calculations beforehand. So yeah, hopefully nothing too complicated, fairly straightforward calculations. Although saying that, do you know what? I did actually sometimes think that R2 and R3 were quite tricky. Like you do need to do calculations beforehand from the AI and kind of figure out what could potentially come up. But yeah, I did sometimes, even though it was simple-ish maths, I don't know, I did find it tricky. So I don't want you to get disheartened if you hear me saying, oh, you know, basic, because it wasn't always just basics. Just see how you go with it. The rest of requirement 2 does tend to have pretty much the same structure, and I'll just put that on the screen for you here. Based on your numbers, is the strategy or opportunity worthwhile? And then it'll be the assumptions that will need to be assessed. So there are benchmarks in the AI to kind of go off. And then you need to do commercial and ethical considerations, and then also conclusions and recommendations. And if you do just want a really easy mark that you'll pretty much always get, is just saying any changes in the assumptions will affect the results of the model. So yeah, you're welcome. So then requirement 3 is probably the shortest appendix that's needed for this one. So it is like a shorter amount of calculations than appendix 1 and 2. Again, it is assessing a potential strategy or opportunity, and to be honest, I do think the lines kind of sometimes do get blurred between what could come up in appendix 2 or appendix 3. I mean, it's not really a problem, it is just something that I did kind of find. So as with requirement 2 having that same sort of answer structure, it's the same for requirement 3. So again, I'll put these up. So first, it's the financial impact using the calculations, and then strategic and operational issues, business trust and ethical issues, and then again, conclusions and recommendations. So another tip, the recommendations can actually just be quite simple. So it can be saying, you know, carrying out market research. There is another company involved in this one, then you can of course carry out some due diligence on them. But again, it is all stuff that you can think about and prepare beforehand, hopefully. And there should be things in the actual exam that would maybe stick out to you. And then within all requirements, there are marks available for wider business context points. And what you do is just need to sprinkle these throughout your answer. So these can kind of be gathered from the AI, but do make sure to kind of have a list beforehand, but then put them into the report where it is relevant. So now let's get on to the bit that everyone probably hates to hear, because I know when I heard it, I was pretty much shocked. So I don't know what was more shocking, hearing about all the different ways that you can fail this exam, or finding out that it's actually a 4-hour exam and it's still time pressured. So what really surprised me about this exam actually is that you can achieve the pass mark and you can still fail the exam. So yeah, even if you do get 50% in this exam, you could still fail based on one of the following reasons. So of course then we'll exclude the reason, which is if you get less than 50%, that of course is a no-brainer, you do unfortunately fail. But then where it does actually get a bit more interesting is actually for not having full coverage in your report. This is where it comes into time management being crucial for this exam, because you know what, if you actually get 100% in requirement 1 and you maybe get decent in, you know, requirement 2, if you're pretty much not really getting any marks in requirement 3 or even the executive summary, you could then fail the exam. Because what the examiners want is a balanced report. They don't just want it where it's more one-sided towards one certain requirement and then not as good throughout. So they would definitely prefer a balanced report. If you are also seen to actually get 0% in one area, such as running out of time, that's why I said time management's really important. But if you do run out of time, then actually it will be an incomplete report and you will actually fail for that. It definitely is then worth getting my help sheet to see how I did manage my time in this exam. So yeah, like I said, then you do pretty much need to be getting 50% then across each of the requirements. And I'll come on to the marking key actually in another video, so do make sure you do subscribe. But if it's not enough time before your exam, then definitely click the blog link in the description below. But if you are deemed insufficiently competent, which is one of the marking key words often, then it does mean that you will or are most likely to fail. And then the final way I believe you can fail, and this one I did kind of find quite harsh, it's if you miss out 4 or 5 of the skill assessment boxes. So again, it will make more sense when you hear about the marking key, but it's essentially 4 or 5 areas that you're assessed on in the exam across all of the requirements. If you don't hit any of those points, such as, you know, the wider business context points that I was talking about, or the conclusions and recommendations, then it will be seen as having missing parts of the report or gaps in your report, could lead to you failing the exam. So like I said, essentially the examiner wants to see that you can put together a complete report. If you don't do as ICAEW say in this exam, then you will pretty much fail. So make sure you do follow what I said. And okay, this has been a bit of a downer in the video, and I hope you are all okay at this point. And we will just move on to the bit where I kind of try and make it easy again for you. So in the full blog to this video, link in the description below, as always, there is another section about the marking key and the timing. So like I said, I will do a whole separate video on this and go into a lot more detail. So do make sure to subscribe or check that out if you want to see it now in the meantime. But yeah, let's actually then make it easy for you, and the title really isn't clickbait. I do want to try and do that. So like I said, the help sheets are there for you. They are completely free, and I do think they should definitely help. It should really give you a good idea of how to approach the case study exam. So people do with this exam say that you can't really revise for this exam, you know, because there's no content. But what I found is that you can actually really prepare for this exam. So you of course need to go through the AI beforehand. And there will be a whole nother video on how much preparation is enough for this exam. So do make sure to stick around for that. But what is crucial is definitely to familiarise yourself with the ICAEW software beforehand. So what you should have gathered hopefully from this video is that the case study exams are kind of pretty similar in terms of their structure and what to expect. So even though the advanced information and case studies will essentially be very different exam to exam, the whole kind of idea behind the case study exam is pretty much the same. So in order to master the technique and the timing, which is key to passing this exam, I do think it definitely helps to do some mock exams. And I know it's a bit frustrating, and I definitely found it frustrating because I was doing this work for, you know, advanced information of previous exams that I knew just wouldn't be relevant to mine, and you still have to go through it all and do a 4-hour exam, and it really feels like you're just kind of wasting your time. But honestly, it does definitely help understand that marking key, which is essential to passing, and it helps you nail your timing. So don't kind of ignore it, and if you do definitely have the opportunity to do mock exams and get them marked by your study provider, then it really is worth doing. What I did find is ACA Simplified Now, Paradigm Shift, they're really handy actually. So once the AI is out, they'll then really go through the AI and kind of understand what could potentially come up, and they will give you 5 mock exams, and you can really practice. And it's really useful because actually one of theirs was on the pricing behind the magazines for me, and that is literally what came up. So it was really useful because I already then understood the calculations. So it can be quite pricey, but I found that it's worth it. But you really don't need it, but it is just kind of that extra bit of comfort if you want it. So yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so glad I got through this video alive. I have been coughing on the sly and obviously have been cutting that out. If you did find this video helpful, then please do give it a like, drop any questions, any comments in the box below. I'll be happy to answer those. If you do want to see a video of me on my final case study day, very nervous, hopefully something that we can all relate to, then that is in the blog below. To be honest, you probably don't care, and whatever it is there if you want it. But do make sure to subscribe because I'll be back with videos every single week, and hopefully you'll see me again soon. Thanks.